Okay.
Don't put them in the microwave. You're gonna kill them.
Okay, put the iPads away.
Okie dokie.
Factoring, I've kind of shown you this a couple times, what we're leading up to. And eventually, factoring is used to solve quadratics, which we've already solved quadratics using the quadratic formula. It's just this is a quicker way for some quadratics, not all of them. Some of them you can't factor, you got to use the quadratic formula. But we're starting off with the easy ones, and when you do these, a lot of it is trial and error, but a lot of them are repeated. So the more you see of them, the easier it's going to get to be to do them. All right? So factoring, you've done factoring like this before. If you've got 2x squared plus 4x, there's two terms there. What do they each have in common? What could you take out of both? An x and?
A number.
What number? 2. You could take a 2x out of this and a 2x out of this. So we factor that out, and then when we take a 2x out of that, it's the same as dividing by 2x. What's left?
2x squared.
Just an x. See, if I take a 2x squared out or a 2x out of this, the 2's cancel and one of the x's, right? If I take a 2x out of this, the x's cancel, and I'm left with a positive 2. So, there's the factoring right there. You're going to have to do some like that. Those are the easy factors. Now, the ones with the trinomials. What you do on this factoring is you undo FOIL. You know, when we had like x plus 2 times x minus 3, and you had to multiply it, you took the x times both of these, that's foiling, or it's the word for it is FOIL, first times first, and then the outside times the outside, inside, last. And then these will combine. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative x minus 6. So there it's multiplied out. What we're going to be doing now is you're going to be given this, and you got to go back to what the factors are.
So you're gonna reverse FOIL.
You got to undo the FOIL, reverse FOIL. Now, what a lot of math teachers, and when you have Mrs. Strum, when she does this, a lot of time factoring is called double bubble. And the reason why is because you end up with, they call this a bubble, and they call this a bubble. There's two bubbles. That's why they call it double bubble. Okay? So, the process is, when you have a trinomial, and these are the only ones we're going to factor, are the ones like this, is you start off with your double bubble. Okay? And what you got to figure out is this first term was found by taking the first times the first.
They're both x's.
So the only way to get an x squared is to take an x times an x. So that's the only possible thing there.
How are we undoing FOIL if we're doing?
We have the product here, and now we're turning it into what the two things
So
we
we're
multiply.
not doing FOIL backwards.
Yeah, we're unfoiling it. So we're undoing the foil. So this is what it started with, and it turned out to be that. So now we're doing it backwards. And then this is an easy one, because what's the only way to get a 2 multiplying? 2 times 1, right?
Oh, 2 times 1.
And it's always the last times the last equals the last. So then what you got to figure out is the signs. I got to end up with 3x. The only way to get a 3 out of a 2 and a 1 is to add them. So it's got to be plus and plus. So now if you check this, first times first is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 2 times x is 2x. And then last times last is 2. So it does turn out to be what we started with. Now eventually what's gonna happen is this ties into what we did yesterday. Eventually you're gonna have an equation like this. So if you factor it, then I can tell what my two answers would be. Because what would I put in here to make this,
0,
not 0,
1,
-2 and -1. Okay? Now, the way we solved these before is we used -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Hey,
We gotta do that again?
all up in
The a is a 1, the b is a 3, the c is a 2. So if we plug these in, it would be -3 plus or minus square root b squared is 9 minus 4 times a times c is 8 divided by 2 times a is 2. 9 minus 8 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. So my two answers are -3 plus 1, which is -2, divided by 2 is -1. And -3 minus 1 is -4, divided by 2 is -2. So obviously, this is a lot quicker than doing this. That's why factoring saves you a lot of time. So for now though, we're not finding the answers. It's not gonna have an equation. We're gonna get used to factoring. So, to factor this, you gotta start off with the double bubble. Then, what times what gives you the first term? X times X. They're usually gonna be X times X. Once we get good at them, then they throw in something like a 2x squared or something there, but that first one's usually not hard. Now we got an option though. What can you multiply together to get a 6? 3 times 2 or 6 times 1. So this is where the trial and error comes in. I can get a -5 if I take a -3 and a -2, right?
Yeah.
Or I could get a -5 if I took a -6 and a +1. So it's possible that they both work. Well, only one will work, but you gotta try both, is what I meant.
What
So-
happens if they do both work?
They won't both work. Only one will work.
Because you got a +6 at the end. Of
So if I try this, well, let me do the one that doesn't work then first.
How do you know?
I already know. So if I tried this one, a -6 and a +1, if you check it, first times first is x squared, last times last is not a +6, right?
Yep.
Because it's a negative times a positive. So there you can see that those don't work. So it's got to be -3, -2.
You can just do it.
And you could do it in your head, right? So when you check, this does give you x squared. This gives you -2x. This gives you -3x, which does combine to give you that. And negative times negative is +6. So that is the factor of that one. So
How do you? I'm just kidding.
you're just kidding? Okay. So again, whenever it's this is the easy part. X times x is x squared. -4, or a 4 times a 2, or an 8 times a 1. 8 and 1 will not give me a 2. So it's got to be 4 and 2. Now you just got to figure out what the signs are then. How do you make a -2?
Negative +2.
-4 and a +2 makes a -2.
How about if I put the other way around?
If you put the 2 here, you mean?
If you put a +4 and a -2.
That wouldn't work because a +4 and a -2 is a +2. We got to end up with a -2. So when you check it, first times first is x squared. That gives you 2x. this gives you negative 4x, which combines to make the negative 2. And then last times last is a negative 8. So I know that's the right answer.
Is that it to go?
We're going to do a few more.
Where do you live?
I'm gonna touch it.
Lily, you a nurse now?
We're also allergic. Oh, I touched it.
What are you doing?
I touched it.
Oh my gosh.
She isn't gonna stab me. Oh my gosh, that's why I asked you. You lied. You didn't stab me, but you didn't stab me. Not yet.
Okay, so for this one, if we double bubble, it's got to be x times x to get x squared. For 18, what can you multiply to get 18?
Negative 6 and a
Negative
Just what are the two numbers?
6 and
Negative
6
9.
times 3.
Oh.
Negative 9 and 2. Jeez.
So I got to end up with a 7. So 6 and 3 won't make 7, 18 and 1 won't. So it's got to be 9 and 2. Now it's got to end up being a positive 7. So I need a negative 2 and a positive 9. Makes a positive 7. So that is x squared.
Wouldn't you have a negative 9 and a positive 2?
No, because if you had negative 9 and positive 2, negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. You got to end up with a positive 7. So that's why it's got to be positive and negative. Because first times first is x squared. Outside times outside is negative 2x. Inside and inside is positive 9x, which makes the positive 7. And then positive times negative is negative 18.
So you multiply them or?
Yeah, what two numbers multiply together will give you this last number. That's what these two will be.
But then when you have the last two, then you just add them together. Okay, I got you. It's the right equation.
Yep. So for this one, x times x. To get a 4, it can either be 2 times 2 or 4 times 1. Which one do we got to use?
2.
2 and 2 will never combine to make a 3, so it's got to be 4 and 1. Now you just got to get the signs correct.
Positive 4, negative 4.
We need a positive 3, so the 4 has to be, and the 1 negative. Okay? Shh, quiet. So when you check it, first times first is x squared. Outside times outside is negative x. Inside is positive 4x, which combines to make that. Shh, quiet. And last times last is negative 4. Okay, x times x is x squared. To get a 6 again, a lot of times they use the same numbers over again. So that's why once you do a bunch of these, they get easier and easier because you just recognize them. We could have 6 times 1. Shh, quiet. We're just figuring out the numbers now. 6 times 1 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, we've got to form... Okay, quiet everybody. Shh. We've got to form a positive 3. Can this form a 3? Can this? So what that means is it's not necessarily a no solution. It just means it can't be factored. You could use the, if it can't be factored, then you got to do the quadratic formula. Not all of them can be solved by doing factoring. So then you'd use the negative b plus or minus b squared and all that stuff.
I see how you know right away. It was like 9. is 2 is 7.
Yep.
4 minus 1 is 3.
Yep.
And that one.
Here, these won't make 3.
That gap.
So some of them can't be factored.
It says little.
That gap.
What is that, Doug?
Gap.
What is it, like another What is it?
That'd be good.
Do you not see that
Now-
right there, Billy?
You can, some of you are using the box when you multiply,
No,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah, I did that one.
okay? Which is okay. Remember, if you got x minus 3 times x plus 4, this one is x squared, this is negative 3x, this is 4x, and this is negative 12. So when you combine it, these two can be combined, so it'd be x squared plus 1x minus 12. Okay, going backwards. You can use this box to factor too, but you're basically doing the same thing as this, but sometimes people like the box way better. I don't know what this and this is, right? But you know inside there's an x squared and a minus 18. And then this tells you that these two gotta combine to make a 7x.
4x plus 3x.
So 4x, it's not a 4x, it would just be a 4 and a 3, or x, yeah. But does 4 times 3 equal negative 18? No. So the two numbers you put in here have to be factors of 18.
3.
9x and 2x is 18x, and it's got to end up to be a positive 7.
So negative.
So it's a negative 2 and a positive 9, like that. So then you can just look at, in order to get an x squared, it's an x times an x. In order to get a 9x here, it'd have to be a 9 here. In order to get a negative 2 times x, it'd have to be a negative 2. So there you can see it's x, and that's no sign, means plus 9. And this is an x minus 2. So it's the same exact thing, it's just another way to do it. To me, this is, factoring is more complicated this way, but it's easier multiplying this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's easier to factor it this way, but some people like it better that way.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, it ends up being the same thing. Yeah, we got a little assignment today.
Wow.
Are we gonna have a math test?
Yeah.
When?
What?
Probably